Okay, so get yourself ready for your not restorative practice, I'm saying that because I'm moving the blanket. For your morning practice, come into good cross legs, just sitting yourself on the lift. And just get into a good cross-legged position, swastikasana. So just have a little wriggle about, just make sure that you feel as though you're sitting evenly. Just listen to the breath. Listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits, holding onto your knees. And then lift the heart area up to the ceiling, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Just spend a few moments listening to the breath, filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And emptying the lungs from the top to the bottom. As you inhale, observe how the chest rises upwards and outwards, and how the chest lowers and the lower ribs release as you exhale. Just bring your hands into Namaste, press the palms firmly together, lengthen from the armpits into the elbows. And then with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. Just focus your attention on the in-breath and the out-breath. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and long, slow, deep, deliberate exhalations. Just observe your energy level. And just pay attention to the breaths as you inhale and exhale. The energy that comes from the breath as you inhale. And the lift of the chest as you exhale. Very gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area. And then release your hands down to meet your knees, palms facing upwards. And as you raise your head, gently allow your eyes to soften and the focus to softly come back. Hold on to your knees, elevating the heart area upwards, drawing the shoulders down away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose. And then with the following exhalation, turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across your ribs, your shoulders. Just observe how your body is feeling this morning there, how the resistance either allows the space or restricts it. Just acknowledge where your body has stayed, not pushing it too far, just acknowledging how your body feels right now. Using the out breath to just gently intensify the turn. And then come back to the center, hold onto your knees. Take a deep inhalation, elevating the heart area, and then turn to the left. Again, just acknowledging how the pose feels on the inside, acknowledging resistance, acknowledging where there is freedom. And then come back to the center. Just lift up into your chest, elevating the heart area up towards the ceiling so that the shoulder blades draw inwards. And then just come onto all fours. Just sit back on your heels for Adho Mukha Virasana. So sit back on your heels, just wriggle into the inner heels and then lift the heart area upwards again. So lifting the heart area so that the shoulder blades draw inwards. Take a deep inhalation and then come forwards, keeping the seat bones down on the heels if you possibly can, using a folded blanket between the seat bones and the heels if you can't. Stretching your arms away, lengthening into the palms of the hands, into the fingertips. Drawing the tailbone down towards the floor. Lengthening deeply into the arms, extending into the arms, just feeling how you can stretch out of your morning fatigue. Just press the forehead down onto the floor. Spread the palms, straighten the arms. Keep the forearms away from the floor by drawing the elbows in towards each other. Just listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. And then come up onto all fours, turn your toes under, and then come up into dog down. Bending your knees initially so that you can really pivot the seat bones and the tailbone up towards the ceiling, and then begin to straighten the legs. Just listening to the sound of your breath and drawing your attention inwards to the physical sensations of the pose. So can you make the arms work evenly? Can you make the legs work evenly so that it feels like there is internal balance? Just listen to the breath. And then step your feet forwards, come up into a standing position. And then have your feet as wide apart as your mat. Have some blocks for underneath your hands for half uttanasana. So the feet as wide apart as the mat. Turning the toes in and lifting the heart area up to the ceiling. Stretching your arms up. Arms nice and wide just to give space into the hip, into the chest to really open up your energy. And then hinge at the hips, keep the arms lifted, keep the chest and the head lifted as you come forward, stretching forward into the center of the room. And then when the torso is pretty much parallel with the floor, bring the fingertips onto the tops of the blocks. Lift and pivot up the seat bones. Turn the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Activate your legs again. Just drawing your attention inward so that you can focus on even action of the legs, the even action of the spine, projecting the chin and the chest forwards. If you can go down any lower without aggravating your back, and go down lower, but keep extending the chin and the chest forwards, driving the shoulder blades in towards the front chest, so lifting the heart area towards the chin. If you go down lower, then reach down to the floor, but keep the legs firmly activated, keeping the feeling of the pose even through the action of the legs, through the action of the spine, through the action of the arms and the neck and the head. So it should never feel like you're working more in one area than the other. So we focus a lot on the activation of the legs, but the activation of the legs facilitates the activation of the spine. And one without the other is incomplete. So just see if you can feel your way into that sensation of balance and evenness. And then bring your hands into your hips, bend your knees on the way up if you need to, and then come up into a standing position. Just come into Tadasana. Just observe how maybe your body has come to life a little more. So sometimes the mind is more keen than the body. Sometimes the body is more keen than the mind. But after a few initial stretches, the energy of the body begins to lift and bring energy and light and life to the body. So turn your palms all the way out, rotating the upper arms in the sockets, broadening the chest. Listening to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Just feel that there is even effort everywhere. Stretch your arms forwards, interlock the fingers, turn the palms all the way out. Don't worry about cracks and pops, that's good. And then raise your arms over your head. And observe how that has changed the activation of the legs, of the chest. So has it made you kind of hit your legs forwards, or has it made the body go out of line? So go back into the feeling of the body, into the levelness of that feeling, and reactivate for evenness. Try and wing your arms beyond your ears. And then just bring your hands down, just swap the interlock of your fingers so that the opposite index finger is on the top of the stack. And then turn palms outwards. And then raise your arms over your head. Just observing the movement of the breath, the movement of the effort of the pose. And then just gently release your arms and then stretch your arms down to the floor, just observing how you've brought energy and lightness into the arms. How the arms suddenly feel more energized and alive. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards your chest, and then step or jump the feet for trikonasana. So nice and wide with the legs. Turn your left toes in, your right leg and foot all the way out. So Andrew, you can always use the chair if you're not going down as low because of your rib injury. So just use whatever you need to just give yourself a little bit more support. Spread your toes, really spread the toes. And stretch your arms out, lifting up into, from the feet up into the legs, into the spine, into the arms, into the neck, into the head. And then just come over to the right side, turning the chest up to face the ceiling. So feel how this activates that front leg. So the right leg feels like it's got a real stretch perhaps in the hamstrings. But don't forget about that back leg. Consciously push from the hip down into the heel of that back leg, keeping that back leg really firm, the kneecap really firm, so you can then lift up into the chest. And it evens out the tensions of that front leg. If you draw your focus into that back leg, because you effectively take weight away from that front leg by giving it some foundation with the back leg. Come back to the center, turn your right toes in, and the left leg and foot all the way out, lift up into the chest, and then reach over to left. Again, just observing that action of the legs, countering the weight away from that left leg by really activating the right leg. So that when you activate the legs, you can activate the spine. Lengthen into the spine, bring in lightness. And then come back to the center. Bring the feet parallel and then step or jump your feet back together. Come back into Tadasana and observe how perhaps the legs feel more activated, more energized. Maybe the chest feels more activated, maybe the arms feel more activated. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the sound of the breath. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards your chest, and then step or jump. Go a little wider for Virabhadrasana 2. Turn your left toes in, your right leg and foot all the way out. So this back leg's going to stay really straight, so tighten that kneecap. Lift up into the chest. And then bend the front knee, turning that inner knee around to the outer knee, finding a right angle, and then looking over the middle finger of that right hand. Breathing even deep inhalations. Take the weight away from that front leg by really stamping into that back heel. Keeping that back leg from the hip into the heel. And then straighten the leg. Just swap the feet around, turn the right toes in and the left leg and foot all the way out, lifting up into the chest, stretching out into the arms, keeping that back leg really firm. And then bend the knee, turning that inner knee around to the outer knee as you go. Looking over the middle finger of the left hand. Push in firmly into that back leg, keeping that back leg straight, tightening the kneecap. The more you create action in that back leg, the lighter it becomes in the front leg. Okay, straighten the leg, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump. Feet back together, and then just come back into Tadasana. Just observe how with each pose you fill the body up with energy. Just breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. Just acknowledging how perhaps after Virabhadrasana 2 your breath might be a little deeper. Okay, we're gonna just come down onto your knees and just sit back on your heels for a moment and just observe your energy. So we're going to go into a headstand, but Andrew, don't do a headstand because of your ribs. So you can do either supta, baddha konasana, or you can do sirvasana just to kind of just relax for a couple of minutes. So just go down onto your back, feet together, knees apart. So otherwise we're going to do a headstand. So find a space by the wall and just make sure that you prepare the pose so that your elbows are no wider than shoulder width apart. So that the best way to gauge that is to just have a look at your elbows, and just if you feel like you're collapsing in your chest, then your elbows are probably too wide. So just bring the elbows out in line with your shoulders and then interlock the fingers right into the finger knuckles. Stretch the little finger side away from the elbows and then bring the little finger side down onto the floor. Keep the cup of your hands open. Stretch your thumbs towards the finger knuckles. Make sure that the upper facing wrist is directly in line with the lower facing wrist, with the floor facing wrist. So they're not kind of collapsing inwards. So there's a firmness. You're pushing your outer elbows firmly into the floor. Then bring the chin into the chest, top of the head onto the floor. And then just start to walk your legs in as though you're doing dog down. And then just making sure that everything feels right in the shoulders and the elbows. Just gently bring the legs up. So after working our legs that we've done in the standing poses, maybe the legs feel lighter, but activate them as though you're in Tadasana, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, stretching from the inner groin into the inner heel. Just breathing evenly and deeply, lifting the shoulders away from your ears. Keeping focused on the feeling of the pose. Okay, when you're ready, just bring your legs down. And then just stretch your arms, so just come away from the wall a little if you're by the wall. Stretch your arms away beyond fingertips with the hands so that you can really release in your neck. Just Adho Mukha Virasana. Sitting back on your heels if you possibly can. Okay, and then when you're ready, just sit back on your heels for a moment, just lift up into your chest. Just observe how you have released your energy. Just listening to the breath, observing the feeling of lightness on the inside. Maybe acknowledge how your body feels like it has woken up from its slumber a little. Okay, so we're going to do rajakapotasana, the pigeon pose. So come onto all fours. So have your hands underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. And then you're going to walk your right knee to make contact with the right wrist, and then bring the right foot over to the side so that the right foot is underneath the left hip. And then you're going to walk that left leg away, come up onto the fingertips, and then lift up into the chest. So just acknowledge the position of your hips. So that back leg, you need to work it like it's in Tadasana, turning the front of the thigh inwards to bring levelness into the hips, lifting up from the abdomen into the diaphragm region, into the collarbone. If there's no problem with your neck, stretch up into the chin. Just breathing, even deep inhalations and exhalations. And then bring the palms of the hands down onto the floor. Just walk that back leg in, and then just come back onto all fours. Just have a little wriggle in your hips, just feeling that you can really open up the outer hip as you swing the hips from one side to the next. And then come back into just a neutral position. So your hands underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. And then bring your left knee to make contact with the left wrist. Bring that left foot underneath the right hip, and then walk that right leg away. Come up onto the fingertips, and then lift up into the chest. Again, really consciously activating that back leg as if you're doing Tadasana, turning the front of the thigh inwards, lifting up into the chest. So you get a really good stretch of the abdomen, don't you? Especially with that back leg side. So we wake up the muscles. Okay, bring the heels of your hands down onto the floor, turn your toes under, and then just walk back into that neutral position, and then again just sit back on your heels, lifting up into the chest, just observing how the energy and the focus of your energy has changed through the duration of our practice so far. And then sitting back on your heels, come forwards into Adho Mukha Virasana. Keeping your arms straight, keeping the forearms away from the floor, really activating the tailbone down towards the heels. Okay, release your hand underneath your shoulders. Just push yourself up into a seated position, and again just elevate your heart area up to the ceiling. Just observing the lightness of your energy. And then just stretch your legs out. Just sit in Dandasana, have a belt where you can reach it. We do janu sirsasana. So just roll over, just move the buttock flesh out to the side. You can always sit on a lift if you want to, a folded blanket. So if you struggle to lift the chest, if you kind of sink like this and you find it very difficult to roll onto the front edge of the seat bones to lift the chest upwards, then sit on a folded blanket. Otherwise, lift up into the chest, really activating your legs like you're in Tadasana, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards like we're in Tadasana. And then just get hold of the back of the left knee, and without disturbing the seat bones, bring that left foot in like you're going to do the tree pose. The foot is in the inside of the thigh. If this knee is floating up in the air, then support the head of the knee with block. Just bring your left hand onto the inside of the shin so that you can turn the chest to face that straight leg. Just breathe evenly and deeply, and then reach up with the left hand. If you know that you can't reach your toes, or if it's going to be a struggle to reach your toes because of an injury, then just get a belt and throw the belt around the foot and then just hold onto the belt. If you've got a bad back, again, you just stay here, just working to really elevate the chest. Otherwise, reach up with the left hand, come forwards, keeping the head and the chest lifted, and then reach around the little toe side of the foot. With the right hand, press that into the floor so that you can lift the chest a little more deeply. And then maybe get hold of the abdomen and encourage it to turn from the left to the right. And then reach around the little toe side with the right foot, reach around the big toe side with the left foot, and then lift up into the chest, keeping the head lifted as you reach around the foot or use the belt. If you can't reach, keep coming forwards, keeping the head lifted. If you can reach around the foot, then do. But keeping the head lifted, keeping the heart area driving towards that front foot, keeping that front leg in Tadasana, turning from the little toe side to the big toe side, in the thigh and in the shin. Coming forwards bit by bit. And when the chest reaches the leg, you can bring your head down. But don't bring your head down if you're miles away, because you're just going to strain your back. This is a good liver massage. Listen to the breath. And then gently just release the leg and then come back to the center. Stretch both legs out, just again readjusting the hips, just to acknowledge how coming out of a forward bend brings a real quietness over the brain. And then this time, without disturbing the seat bones, bring that right leg in. Keep this left thigh rotating inwards, either using the belt or turning the chest, and then reaching up with the right hand, come forwards, reach around the little toe side of the foot or the outside of the shin. Digging the back hand into the floor and turning the abdomen, maybe getting hold of the abdomen and turning it from the right to the left. And then reach around the little toe side with the left foot, the big toe side with the right foot. And just gently coming forwards, just bit by bit. Keeping the head lifted, keeping the heart area lifted. Listening to the breath. Feeling the stretch at the back of that straight leg. Pressing it down into the floor, turning that leg from the little toe side to the big toe side. And then just raise your head, release your leg, and then just stretch both legs out in front. Just stretch up into Dandasana. And then just bring your legs into swastikasana, into cross legs, or into half padmasana, whichever is more doable and comfortable. Hold onto your knees and then lift up into the chest. Just acknowledge, you can close your eyes for a moment, just acknowledge how the body has transformed itself in energy. Now maybe the head feels more willing to engage in the pose. Maybe there is more energy in the brain. So open your eyes, lift up into the chest, and then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across. Ribs and your shoulders, just acknowledging how perhaps this pose feels different this time. So still acknowledging any resistance, but acknowledging difference in that recognition. And then come back to the center, lift up into the chest. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose. And then with an exhalation, turn to the left. And then gently come back to the center. Just lift up into the chest. Okay, and then just come down onto your back. And we're just going to go into supta konasana. So the soles of the feet together, the knees apart, and then just rest yourself down into the floor, feeling how the back is supported by the floor. If there's stiffness in your hips, use blocks underneath your thighs. Press the heels consciously together. Press the outer edge of the feet consciously together. Just gently turn the tailbone in. Broaden the abdomen so that the abdominal walls draw down towards the floor. Raise your arms, interlock your fingers, and then turn the palms all the way up. But keep the outer edge of the shoulder blades down on the floor. Take a deep inhalation and then lengthen your arms along the floor. If there's stiffness in your shoulders, you can use a folded blanket or some blocks underneath your hands. Keeping the heels pressing together, the outer edge of the feet together, the tailbone drawing in, the abdomen broadening. And then raise your arms. Just swap the interlock of the fingers. Turn the palms all the way out. Squeeze the outer elbows in. And then just stretch your arms along the floor. And then just release your arms. Just rest your elbows on the floor. Rest your hands on your lower ribs for a moment. Just spending a little time just acknowledging the opening of the rib cage with the in-breath and the out, and the closing of the rib cage with the out-breath. So we allow the body to accommodate the breath, and then the body gleans energy from the breath. Non-resistant extension allows the body to energize. Non-resistant lungs allow energy to be absorbed more effectively from the breath. Okay, draw your knees together. Have your knees together, your feet apart for a moment. Just resting your hips for a moment, and then draw your knees in towards your chest, and then just sit yourself up, and then just have a folded blanket from underneath your head. And then just guide yourself down onto the floor. Just make sure that your head feels supported by the blanket. Just draw your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side. Just massaging out the spine. And then stretch yourself along the floor. Just come up onto your elbows. Make sure that you're in a really good straight line right down the center of your mat. And then just allow yourself to release into the floor. Long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. So allow the body to completely release into the floor. And go the muscles of the arms and the legs. Just allowing the body to become heavy on the floor. And then out of that heaviness, observe feeling of lightness that radiates out from the bones and into the muscles into the organs, into the flesh and the skin. Just basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. Using your in-breath and your out-breath to distribute that feeling of lightness into the tips of the toes, to the tips of the fingers, and up into the top of the head. Basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. And then when you're ready to disturb yourself, just wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom. Just gentle massage on the spine. And then gently roll over onto your right side. Just stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into the seated position, just a final cross legs with hands in the masti, just a final spinal lift. Draw in your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the inversions bring to the body and to the mind. And then very gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you've created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then when you're ready, just gently release the backs of your hands down towards your knees, palms facing upwards. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel as though you've lifted your energy and brought your body to life and your mind to life a little. So you've got good energy